Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out that the cash in your wallet is useless, but a bag of salt, a silver bracelet, or a few cattle can buy you food, land, or labor. That sounds strange now, but for most of human history, money was not paper, plastic, or numbers on a screen. It was stuff: grain, cattle, shells, salt, copper, silver, gold. Different civilizations chose different commodities, but they were all trying to solve the same problem. How do you trade efficiently with people who do not necessarily want what you have? That problem starts with barter. Suppose you raise chickens and want a pair of shoes. You need to find a shoemaker who wants chickens and then agree on how many chickens the shoes are worth. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. As economies become larger and more specialized, that problem gets worse. So certain goods begin to stand out. People accept them not because they want to consume them immediately, but because they know someone else is likely to accept them later. That is the beginning of money. The goods that succeed tend to share certain traits. They are durable, portable, divisible, recognizable, and relatively scarce. They are also widely desired. It also helps if their supply cannot be expanded too easily. If anyone can create huge amounts of the money commodity at almost no cost, its value becomes difficult to preserve. This explains why early commodity money looked different across civilizations. In ancient Mesopotamia, both grain and silver played monetary roles. Grain made sense in an agricultural society because everyone needed it, and temples and palaces could store it. But grain is bulky, it spoils, and it is expensive to move. Silver had a major advantage. A small amount could represent substantial value, and it did not rot in storage. At first, silver often circulated by weight rather than as coins. A merchant might literally weigh out metal to settle a debt. That matters because money existed before coins existed. Coinage did not invent money, it made an existing monetary commodity easier to use. Livestock also served as money in many pastoral societies. Cattle were valuable because they provided milk, labor, hides, meat, and offspring. But cattle are terrible for buying lunch. They are not easily divisible. One cow is not exactly like another, and they need food and space. They work better as stores of wealth or for large payments than as everyday currency. Cowrie shells solved some of those problems. They were small, durable, easy to count, and difficult to reproduce locally in places far from the coastlines where they originated. Cowries became important forms of money across parts of Africa and Asia, but their history also gives us a clear lesson in monetary economics. When traders brought enormous quantities of shells into regions where they had been scarce, their value fell. That principle appears again and again. Scarcity depends on technology and access. A new trade route, a new mine, or a cheaper method of production can suddenly change the supply. Salt is another example. Salt was essential before refrigeration because it helped preserve food. In places where it was difficult to obtain, it could become a useful medium of exchange. Tea bricks circulated in parts of Central Asia and China. Cloth served monetary functions in parts of Africa and Asia. Tobacco became a form of money in colonial Virginia, partly because metallic currency was scarce and tobacco already had export value. The point is not that people were primitive and used random objects as money. Their choices were often economically rational. A society tended to use commodities that were valuable, recognizable, and liquid in its particular environment. Over time, metals became especially important because they solved more monetary problems than most other goods. Copper and bronze could work for lower value transactions. Silver and gold could store much more value in far less weight. Metals did not spoil, and they could be melted, divided, and reshaped. Then came coinage. In the ancient Mediterranean world, especially in Lydia and the Greek city-states, rulers began stamping metal into standardized coins. Before standardized coinage, every transaction might require weighing and testing metal. A coin issued by a trusted authority reduced those verification costs. The stamp effectively certified the coin's weight and purity. That made exchange faster, but it also created a new opportunity for governments. If a ruler controlled the mint, the ruler could reduce the amount of silver or gold in each coin while continuing to spend the coins at their official value. This is called debasement. The Roman Empire used debasement repeatedly, especially during periods of heavy military and fiscal pressure. Debasement exposes one of the deepest tensions in monetary history. People want money that holds its value. Governments often want more resources. Under commodity money, the state cannot create unlimited gold or silver, but it can manipulate the standard. Users respond. Merchants can weigh coins, reject suspicious currency, demand payment in better money, or hoard coins with higher precious metal content. Monetary history is full of this push and pull between authorities trying to expand the supply and users trying to protect purchasing power. Different civilizations developed different versions of metallic money. China relied heavily on bronze cash coins for long periods, while silver often circulated by weight. The Islamic world developed gold dinars and silver dirhams that moved across large trade networks. Medieval Europe used silver extensively and later increased its use of gold. Then the conquest of the Americas changed the global monetary system. Spanish-controlled mines in places such as Potosi and Mexico produced enormous quantities of silver. That silver entered Europe, crossed oceans, and flowed into Asian markets, especially China, where silver demand was strong. Spanish silver coins became internationally recognized and helped create one of the first truly global monetary systems. But the flood of precious metal also demonstrated that gold and silver are not immune to inflation. Europe experienced major price increases during the 16th and 17th centuries. Many forces were involved, but expanding silver supplies were part of the story. Even commodity money can lose purchasing power when its supply rises quickly. Commodity money also created another problem: storage. Carrying large amounts of gold or silver is inconvenient and dangerous, so merchants deposited metal with goldsmiths, warehouses, and eventually banks. In return, they received receipts or notes. Then something important happened. People realized that if they trusted the institution holding the metal, they could trade the receipt instead of withdrawing the metal itself. Now the economy had moved from commodity money toward representative money. The paper was valuable because it represented a claim on gold or silver stored somewhere else. Banks soon discovered that depositors rarely demanded all of their metal at the same time. That meant banks could issue more claims than the amount of metal they physically held. This helped produce fractional reserve banking and expanded credit. At that point, the monetary system became less about the physical metal and more about trust in institutions. Eventually, many countries adopted gold or silver standards in which paper money could be converted into a fixed amount of precious metal. These systems constrained governments because creating more currency required maintaining convertibility. That could provide discipline, but it also created problems. The money supply depended partly on mining output and international flows of metal. During financial crises, governments and banks could struggle to provide liquidity without threatening convertibility. That tension helped push modern economies toward fiat money, money that is not redeemable for a fixed quantity of a commodity, and instead depends on legal institutions, monetary policy, taxation, and public confidence. So what does the history of commodity money teach us? First, money works because people expect other people to accept it. That expectation can be supported by a commodity, by law, by institutions, or by some combination of all three. Second, scarcity matters. A monetary system becomes unstable if the supply of money can grow much faster than demand for it. Cowrie shells, silver mines, debased coins, and modern fiat currencies all operate under different systems, but the underlying problem is similar. Third, every monetary system creates incentives. Miners want to produce more precious metal when it is profitable. Rulers want to stretch limited metal into more coins. Banks want to issue profitable loans and claims. Governments want flexibility during wars, recessions, and crises. Money is never just a neutral object. It sits inside a system of incentives. And finally, the history of money is the history of reducing transaction costs while managing trust. Human societies moved from barter to commodity money, from commodity money to coins, from coins to paper claims, and from commodity-backed paper to fiat currency, because each step made exchange easier or more flexible. But each step also created new risks. A good form of money must be easy to use, hard to fake, widely accepted, and sufficiently scarce. It must also operate inside institutions people trust. The objects have changed, from cattle and shells to silver dollars and digital bank balances, but the economic questions have not. Who creates the money? What limits its supply? Why do people accept it? And what incentives does the system create? Answer those four questions, and you can understand almost any monetary system in history.